Alright troops, welcome to another episode of the All That Ability podcast. Today we have somebody that I've wanted on for a long time, and I've been thinking of different ways to give you an introduction, right? But I mean, how do you do it for a guy that's, it's impossible because there's so many things you can say. Scottish wrestling legend, Mr. BBC himself.
BBC.
You said that in a promo when you went heel, mate, remember that?
I said, to get heat, I said that. I says, I am the star of BBC, the star of ITV, the star of Impact Wrestling, Grado. That was to get folk to boo me.
If you don't know that voice, it's the one and only Grado. And see, the thing is, what you were saying, see when you actually, I know this is not where I wanted to start with this, but just when you were talking about the heel thing, getting the heat and all that, right? See when you did that and you were like, everyone's here to see Marcel. That was the most heartbreaking.
When I turned into a bad guy?
I was like,
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. It was, see the night that I did turn into a bad guy at the Barrowlands, Mark Dallas was backstage going, you need to do it, mate. You're going to be like Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I was like, but how can I like be a bad guy on these shows and then turn up at Greenock Town Hall and start going, come on, Ken, come on, everybody get up. But I did enjoy it, to be honest with you. It was different for me. Takes a lot more out you being a bad guy wrestling because you need to control the match. So I was burst in that ring because you need to be, because it's you that's putting the pressure, putting the heat on the baby faces, whereas in the baby faces it's the other way about. You spend a lot of time lying your backside and you bump and feed for them. But it was different for me being a bad guy. But it only lasted for a couple of months and then I was back to being a good guy again.
It felt more like, I know that he thought it would be like a Hogan thing, but it felt more like Stone Cold at WrestleMania when he turned to him.
Aye.
The fans didn't want to boo him.
No.
Nobody wanted to boo you at the time. I didn't want to boo you.
And that night when I did turn into a bad guy, Kenny McIntosh, do you know him?
Yeah.
And the ropes, he tweeted, this is the worst mistake he's ever done. This is the worst mistake he's ever made. This will never work. I was like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? But I think we done it. We took it on the roads. We went down to Wales and we were in Newcastle and stuff like that. So it was good to get on the mic and shout at the crowd and get in folks' faces. But I think it was more kind of tongue in cheek. Folk were having a laugh with it when they were booing. But it was different. It was different, so it was.
Well, because a lot of the time, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why you became such a big star was because you were yourself.
Aye.
And it's was it difficult to not to I had to get that in somewhere, right?
Hey, Shell Cell. We heard that in 5 minutes. A guy just was driving along there, somebody shouted, hey, Shell Cell. But it could be worse, but it could be a hell of a lot worse.
I've been playing that.
Okay, do you fat bastard? I've had that.
Listen, some things I've had during the week, I would have, that would be much better than what I've had. I've had like
what?
Look at Stephen Hawking over there. You're like,
joking? Do folks say that?
No, mate, I'm just trying to be funny. But I've said this in multiple.
But Stephen Hawking, not wrong with Stephen Hawking, he was one of the most intelligent.
I know, that's the thing. You would think that somebody being in a wheelchair that's the smartest guy in the world would have destigmatized that wee bit, but apparently didn't quite do the job. So you can be the smartest guy in the world and it's still like, look at that guy, he's stupid. It's like, what are you talking about? Like,
but I've watched your podcast. I watched your podcast with Toll and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And you've had, who else have you had on? You've had Cy Ferry and who was another one I seen recently? Did you have the Riley's Gaff boys?
Aye, Riley's Gaff.
Aye, so you're doing pretty well. What do you do it once a week? Or?
Once a week, mate. Every Tuesday, just try to get. I mean, the whole point of it, not to talk about myself too much here, is to just try and destigmatize disability. And by me and you having a conversation, like I'm in a wheelchair and you're not, right? But the idea of it is like people maybe haven't seen somebody in a wheelchair or really even heard of them. So like if they see this conversation, they go, oh, he's actually normal.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? And then that makes it easier for people going about and so, like mainstream media don't really promote us or use us in that sense. So like having these kind of conversations and having people like you on that have like a big audience help us in the mainstream view, if you like, to try and make it easier for like, because the whole point for me was try to make it easier for the next people in the wheelchair.
Well, you will be inspiring folk. I take it, do you have people that use wheelchairs? Do they listen to your podcast and tell you that they inspire you because, you know, you've had because it takes a lot to do a podcast.
Aye.
And it takes, you know, it's not an easy thing to do to carry a conversation. I struggle with it sometimes on my podcast, man. I can't start a conversation together. So it's good that, you know, you're put yourself on a platform where other folk, as you say, that have got the difficulties that you've got, and they can see that you're doing brilliant with it.
Well, thank you, mate. Like you say, it's a difficult thing to get started with, but in terms of, you know, having people on in wheelchairs and things like that, I have had that. And I think the more that I've done it, I've sort of realised that, like, the way to sort of try and get people to realise what's the way that we talk about disability and the way to change the conversation is by having a situation where, like, we've been through different, you know, like, we've had different paths in life, right? But you've probably felt shite in your life at some point, and so have I through being in a wheelchair. But even if I wasn't in a wheelchair, I would have had bad times as well. Do you know what I mean? So
you see anything, you know, you've got your podcast, but see your Instagram now. You're getting torn into that gym every single day, you know? Getting rabs down on that thingy machine. What is that? What's that machine called?
Ski machine, mate.
Aye. That's brilliant that you're getting up every day and going to the gym, because I mean, I've not been in a gym in about 3 years. So you're inspiring me that way, you know?
Well, let's get a workout in together. let's go pop some wine.
No, the worst thing I ever done was get a personal trainer. I hated it because, I don't know, I hope the guys not listening, but don't get me wrong, he got me in good shape. It was when I was wrestling Drew, and I done well with the guy, but I was in there for too long, man. I thought I was only going to be half an hour, and then right, I'll get you in here in the morning. But I was in for about an hour and a half. Then he wanted me to go for something to eat with him. Then he wanted me to go and watch his wee boy play football. I thought, no. Then I just started dinging these phone calls, and that's the last time I've ever been in a gym.
So how long ago was that? Wait,
it's about 3 stone ago, mate. Absurd.
Oh, you're making me lose my composure here quite early on. No, but I can keep it together. I'm not supposed to laugh as much, right? Okay, so in terms of, you're saying you've not been at the gym in a while, right? But
aye.
In terms of wrestling shape, because you came back recently for a few shows, is that right?
I was rolling about that ring like a slob. An absolute slob. Oh, it doesn't matter. But see, it doesn't matter how much you go to the gym and you keep your cardio up. There's a difference between, like, fit and ring shape, because it is different. It's like The Rock this year. Not that I'm comparing myself with The Rock here, right? However, he's just said that he's not going to get himself in the right nick to wrestle at WrestleMania. And you think to yourself, come on, you're up at 4 a.m. eating fillet steaks, and he's one of the strongest guys in the world, you see. But even he knows that it doesn't take, it takes more than that. You've got to get used to the ring and be able to, there's a certain kind of way, a certain strategy to it that I struggle with.
Well, see, to be honest with you, man, like, you were talking about the ski earlier, right? I know people that listen to this podcast regularly will be sick of me telling this story, right? But I did a challenge, like, in 2021 when I was doing 1,000k in a month. So on the ski machine, so it was 40k on the ski a day for 30 days to get to 1,000k, and it was.
Your aims must be. Let's see your guns.
Scott Steiner, brother.
Let's see your guns.
I can't be in that. Like,
yeah.
Boom. That's
no, do that. Let's see.
I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not like Hulk Hogan. I'm not on the steroids yet. You know what I mean? So,
see, when anytime somebody asks me, I always pull the fat up like that. So it looks alright.
But that's like me trying. Like, I could do that with my calves, but it wouldn't really be that believable, would it?
What, with your calves?
I'm saying if I did it with my legs, people would be like, "Well, that's."
I tell you what, but see, speaking of calves, that's one of the only muscles in my body that I'm proud of, because I've always said I've got, like, the top half of Russell Grant and the bottom half Linford Christie, because you carry weight about, and because wrestling it is getting folk in your shoulders and a lot of squatting. So see if I did go to the gym, it'd be leg day every day. I like doing the legs.
I've been skipping leg day for years, mate.
Brilliant.
But the thing, if we could put your legs with my arms, we'd have something going on, mate.
That'd be good, aye. That'd be some team.
It'd be better than DJ Generation Greg's, anyway. Tell that for sure.
Are you Ravy Davey on that show?
I have, mate. I didn't get a word in the whole time, but
really?
He's a great guy.
He's some boy. He's done well with old TikTok, I must say.
He's a good lad.
He has, and that story that he had about being a young boy and coming up to me for a picture in Govan Town Hall and saying, me and you are going to be a tag team. Me and you are going to be DJ Generation Greg's. And it did happen. He worked hard at it. He's done well with his videos online. And the Waynes love him. The Waynes love him. I've got my stepdaughter. Whenever I put on shows at the Pavilion, she'll go, "Is Ravy Davy going to be there?" So he's got that connection with the young folk. And he's done it the right way. He's done it in terms of getting himself out there and using social media.
I know he's got a great story as well. The guy where he's come back from. And do you know it's funny that
in the jail.
It's funny that he said that to you because I'm going to say the same thing to you, right?
What?
Only it's better, right? Because what I was trying to tell you that ski story is that I actually started doing wrestling training at the end of last year, and it was what's really interesting about it is I've done like. See, just doing like 10 minutes rolling about, you're like, how do people do this for half an hour? Or like, I start thinking about Ironman matches and I go, how did they do this, man?
No, that's why I come in anytime for the last couple of years anyway, just because it has been on and off, I go in and it says Grado versus whoever, time 18 minutes. I'm like, fucking right. There's no way I can go 18 minutes. Or at least I'll say, I'm doing a 9-minute entrance, a bit of guy at the front, you beat me up, I'll get my comeback, and then that's us. Because as you say, to wrestle for that length of time, it's the worst one I ever done was I turned up at a show and it was actually Lionheart and I, and he booked a Royal Rumble, and he says, "You're winning the Rumble," and I went, "Oh, tidy, get in there." He says, when am I coming out? Am I coming out 26, 27, 28? No, number 1. So I had to be in that ring right for the get-go, 30 other guys, and then a wee kind of sort of match to kind of put a bow on it at the end. I was burst. Absolutely burst. But the problem with wrestling is if you stop doing it, it's hard to kind of get your fitness back up to where it was. Not that I was ever the fastest ever in the ring anyway, but you know, I could certainly go 2014, 15, 16. I could certainly hold my own wrestling, but I don't know if it'd be the same now. You
mentioned the kind of prime, boom years, if you like that. Those are the sort of, and see, I was really thinking about this, and the best way to talk about this, because you've probably talked about this a million different times, right? Mm-hmm. But there's certain things as a fan that I was watching it, and I'm like, okay, so what's happening here? So like you started doing, so you had a wee kind of thing going on with Jackie Polo, which is what started the whole you doing promos on Facebook and having the like a prayer song and all that, and it kind of caught on, and then Dallas has like started the whole. You had a documentary coming on, and part of the we'll go into that in maybe a second. But the point I was going to make is when you're doing those promos and you're first starting it, and you start using that song in it. Did you see, like everybody talks about manifesting things these days, about how you need to picture it before it happens and all that. Like, like you need to imagine it can happen. Like, when you're doing this, did you ever think that was ever going to be possible for you to be the hydro, fighting Drew McIntyre for the belt and all that?
No, never in a million years. All I really wanted to do was just get booked by ICW. Because I remember they had been on my TV at the time, which was like a kind of snidey Sky channel. It was on like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I had stopped wrestling. But ICW was getting a major buzz. They were putting on over 18 shows. They were running nightclubs. And I just wanted to be part of it. And I'd never in a million years did I ever think it would take half the way it did. So, as I say, Dallas, I've told it before, Dallas saw one of my videos, because the story is that another wrestling company was putting on a show in Ardrossan, right, which is only 2 miles from where I live. And I was sort of known in the area as the wrestling guy. And I couldn't have a show being put on in Ardrossan without me being on it, right? And so I said to the promoter that was running the show in Ardrossan, I says, look, I really want to be on this show. I know I've no wrestled in a couple of years. I says, but I can't have a wrestling show in my area and me no be part of it. And he says, well, look, here's a crack. If you sell me 20 tickets, I'll get you booked. I says, right, 20 tickets. I could do that. Sell it to a couple of my pals. What else can I do? I thought, right. Facebook was just kicking off at the time, and you could just start uploading videos. I thought, right, well, what I'll do is, I knew I was going to be wrestling Adam Shame. So I thought, right, I'll put a wee video out, and it'll just be to the people that are running about in the area. And I went down to, where did I do it? Outside the Coo House in Stevenson, in Salkett, sorry. There's an abattoir. And I stood outside there, and I cut a promo in an all leotard and basically challenged Adam Shame. And that was only to sell these 20 tickets, of course. What ended up happening was it started to get shared everywhere. I I don't even think he checked if I'd sold 20 tickets just for the success of the video. He thought, right, I can book you. And I booked and I had the match. But the promo, there wasn't many folk doing that style of promo, being myself. And Scottish wrestling, anytime there was there you go, see? Scottish wrestling, at the time it was still people were doing that, this Saturday, I'm going to see you in that ring, baby. And, you know, be there, it's 7:30, address in the Civic Centre. It's going to be the biggest, almost like, come on, man, copying what they see on the telly and their own kind of sort of fake American Scottish accent. For I'm going to be, no, how you, Dafty? I'm going to bust you. That's Saturday, get your buddy down there. Can I just thought, try and make it your own? And so Dallas saw that video and sent me a wee email and says, mate, do you fancy doing something with ICW? And it was only ever meant to be a skit. It was only ever meant to be a sort of, like, he didn't even promise me a match. I was just going to be a sort of on-screen character on their TV channel. Of course, they ended up getting one of their shows that they done, I think they had said the word CUNT on the show, and it had played just, I think there was like some cut-off time with the watershed, and so they got complaints, so they get pulled off the telly, and so there was no telly for me to be on, so I don't know what the idea was. However, he asked me to turn up at a show one time, and I remember it was the classic Grand. Turned up, done some backstage videos, and again done more YouTube videos, and then it just started to kind of take off for there. Folk were sharing it, and then the next show it was all get Grado booked, and then that led to my debut where I jumped the ring and teamed up with Drew McDonald, who was a wrestler that I absolutely loved as a wee boy, because again I was quite late coming into wrestling. How long have you been watching wrestling for?
I'm 26, so I've been watching it since, before I was 10. Like
I was about 11, 12. I was quite late for folk to be into wrestling.
I have 4 brothers, right? So we used to just have wrestling matches all the time and all that.
Aye.
And it was like chaos.
Well, that's what I done that with my pals and all. Once we done the old backyarding. Me, my mate, Big Dave, Gary Hutton, and my pal Hammy. And we used to, one of my pals, Big Dave, he had his brother had a house, and out the back door, we turned the back door into like a wrestling arena. Ken, we had like the rope off the whirly gig, round all the 4 poles. We had a mattress, we bought underlay for B&Q, and we called it the Swamp Arena. And I used to go out and take my trackies off and wrestle my breeks, and I can't remember what I was called. There was my group of pals that done that, but then also I used to kind of wrestle in my grand's bedroom and all, which was a bit disturbing when I look back to it. But I just got obsessed with wrestling for that, for playing my pals. And as soon as I saw The Rock, when I saw The Rock, I thought, he's the man. At the start, I didn't even like the wrestling as much. It was The Rock that I loved. I just thought he was the coolest guy ever, coming out with the people's eyebrow and the shirt and the promos. I was obsessed with it. Anyway, what were we talking about there?
We're talking about how basically how you started to become popular, sort of thing. And
how did I ever expect it to be?
And do you know what's mad about that is the whole story starts off where you just take a chance and
that's it.
You're just trying to sell 20 tickets
to lose,
and you become this sort of, and it just sort of seems to steamroll everything there. But what you were saying about just to touch on the whole promo thing about how a lot of Scottish wrestlers are trying to be American to Scottish people, and it just doesn't connect, you know what I mean?
That's it.
But like, even still, I'll see people posting videos promoting that, and you're like, you're not in America.
Mate, there's a guy, I saw a guy, ICW, and he looks the part, big time, right? I don't say his name. And I watched him, I've saw some of his matches, he looks great, he's built, he's got a good look. But then I watched his promo and he's going, you know, that I'm gonna get you. Kind of like that. I'm going, no, calm down a wee bit. Turn yourself up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Try and be yourself as much as possible, but because the fans can see through all that. Like, see, Jester, I always thought Jester used to do stuff like that. He would get on the mic and he'd go, you know what Jester used to be like? He was like a kind of gothic, kind of hardcore, but I always felt it was, I'm Jack Jester, and this Saturday at ICW, and I always thought, see, Jester in real life, Jester is one of the funniest folk I know. He legit is.
I've had him on here.
He's hilarious. And I always say to him, I goes, look, you need to just I think you need to be more yourself because you're funny. And I'm not saying that's what he done and that's what he does now, but the stuff that he done with Sha Samuels and the Pinky Party and stuff like that, I think fans got to see the real side of him and then he connected better with the audience.
No, definitely. I think that's what, coming to the SCW shows and that, I'm kind of getting sidetracked to where I was going to go, which is the fact that, and I'll come back to this, but we were talking about, so then it leads up to this documentary that happens about you, right? And one of the things that I've had several people, like, on the podcast say to me, and just in general, is compare you to, like, a Scottish Dusty Rhodes. Right? And
the common man. He's just a common man.
Right? And do you know what was crazy about that is the big story going on there now in WWE about how Dusty Rhodes won the belt and then it was taken away from him and all that. Mm-hmm. Before you actually won the SCW World title in that documentary, you technically won the belt.
Aye.
That in the documentary, but it was taken away from you.
Aye.
And I didn't actually to think of that. It's so weird that is the same
Did you
thing.
not know that?
Well, because I had known that happened to me. I'd never clicked the same thing happened to Dusty Rhodes.
Aye.
And then when you realise that, you go, wow, he really is a Scottish Dusty Rhodes.
Aye.
So what do you make of that comparison? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, Dusty Rhodes I love, right? And I must admit, I didn't watch a lot of Dusty Rhodes growing up, but it was Billy Kirkwood that first said you could be the Scottish Dusty Rhodes. And then when I go back and watch Dusty Rhodes matches, I love it. It's just the way he bounces about the ring. He's built like a loaf of bread, a bit like myself, but it's his timing and because you're watching him going. He was wrestling guys at the time, Randy Savage and Rick Rude and all the rest of it who are built, but he just had that connection to the crowd because he was, and probably the way he spoke. He had that southern accent and all, which a lot of American wrestling fans, a lot of them were from the southern states, and he had the twang and he never changed his accent. So I think a lot of folk believed he was real. And a lot of what I was doing was me just being real. And, I'd admit, I wasn't the best wrestler about, I never done any kind of promos where obviously, as I say, everything I ever done was just like me turned up to 11. So I can see the comparisons there. He's a son of a plumber, I'm a son of a taxi driver. You know what I mean? And he didn't do a lot of moves and all, but the way he would move about the ring and the flip flop and fly, the way he would strike folk. I love it, and I always try to kind of take as much as what I can for old Dusty Rhodes. But I can see where there'd be comparisons to him.
Could you? I mean, see. So what I was saying about going to the ICW shows and stuff is that I noticed how. So obviously there's a big kind of new crowd of wrestlers these days, and one of the things that was. My dad was telling me a story about this, and I thought I would mention him because do you know what's funny is I asked my dad for a lift to every podcast, right?
Hey.
And he's like, well, why don't I come pick you up this time? And I was like, you never want to come pick me up? I'm like, well, maybe we'll meet Grado and that,
Is he
come get early. He's under the table, mate.
What's his name? Is he a wrestling fan?
Well, because the story that he was telling me was he remembers watching the documentary. And
what one did he watch? Did he see the BBC one or the British Wrestler?
That's a good question.
Because that was the deal. The British Wrestler was the first one in 2012, where nobody wanted to touch it, and none of the wrestlers were scared about like exposing the business and making wrestling look daft. Whereas I had nothing to lose. I was like, I don't care. You can come to my house. Come and see my wrestling posters in my room. Come and see, like how much I love wrestling and all the kind of stuff that I had done and telling all my stories about how I used to pester all the wrestlers on AOL chat and MSN. I was like, bring it on. And I'm so glad that I did it.
Aye.
And then, of course, we done the Vice documentary, which is still up just now. And then BBC, or should I say, it wasn't the BBC, it was actually Muriel Gray's company, IWC. Her in, oh my God, her in, she's never going to see this, why did I forget her name right now? That's so annoying. Anyway, they pitched it to BBC to basically do their own version of the British Wrestler, which then became Insane Fight Club.
It would have been the one in your house because he referenced a specific point where he wasn't even really that into wrestling. He didn't know much about it, but he was watching it and right away he was like that. This guy, you're in the house and you're just talking about stuff, right? And he's like, this guy is going to be something, man. He's got something about him. And my dad honestly doesn't say that about anything, man.
Aye.
And he was like to me, I can't believe you having a podcast, man. So
that's good.
So right away, like even as somebody that he wasn't a wrestling fan, right? But right away you were already drawing people in that weren't even,
Well, that's what the documentary done, because I feel as if it wasn't a wrestling documentary. It was a Scottish. It was a story about a group of Scottish boys that had a dream about putting on big wrestling shows and making it as big as what they can. And so the story really wasn't for me a wrestling story. It was more like the west of Scotland, the pals just going for it, no being feared, taking risks, taking every opportunity they can. So that's what Insane Fight Club done. There was folk that had no experience of watching wrestling. They were like, I want to come to these shows. It's like my brother. He hates wrestling. He absolutely hates wrestling. He hates wrestling, man.
That's a shame, man.
He hates it, and he used to hate coming to our shows. Like I would do, the shows that we do in town halls and stuff like that. He'd go, I just can't believe some of you's come out in your pants in front of Wayne's and walk about. And then see me actually when he says that, you kind of go, you're right, that is a bit kind of, you know what I mean? But he would go to ICW shows and he would say it's like going to the football. Because folk would the ICW shows back in the day, they would go for something to eat with their pals, they would go to the boozer and then go to the wrestling and just chant all night and get right into it. And it was just, that's like your father probably saw that. I know it wasn't the wrestling, but it was just seeing a group of boys going for it, full pelt.
But that to me, in a bigger sense, is what wrestling actually is. It's about personalities. It's about connecting with folk.
Aye.
Because it's not, because it's like, it's not like UFC kind of it took away the idea that it was real, like a proper fight. And I hate using the word fight because I've been in the ring. I know it hurts like fuck, you know what I mean? So it doesn't feel.
It's not a trampoline you're landing on, isn't it?
And do you know what's funny is in my head, do you know what I've always thought to myself, right? Is why isn't it a trampoline? Like, as in, do you know what I mean?
But why we all know it's.
Why, like, see, if everyone knows it, it's like. Could you not just sell more and have it be a bit softer?
No, but I tell you what, but there is, once you get into it, right, I love bumping and I love the feeling that it gives you. I know that sounds daft, and that's one of the things I miss about wrestling all the time was, it's funny because some of the wrestlers slag you, but I like to see when you waking up the next day after you've wrestled and it's there. It's a good feeling for some reason. I don't know why, but see when you've got that walk, your legs are sore and your hips...
Don't run that too much, man. You're talking like a wheelchair.
You could take a steel chair shot, across the dome.
Buzzing for it.
That's there.
Buzzing for it. Throw me off the cell at a table or something. I'll do it. I said to Dallas, the first time I met Dallas was doing that challenge thing, and I said to him, like, I will do anything to get booked. Like, put me through a table on fire, I'll do it.
Have you ever done actually on a show?
So when I've been doing the training and stuff like that, I've been training with Barry Wolfgang.
He's an American, isn't he?
Yeah, he just won the NXT tag team titles. Pretty cool. And
that's cool. He's the man, bro. He's the best.
I can't believe I just said his real name on the podcast. Breaking the fourth wall.
Oh, come on.
But do you know what you're saying about bumping, man? It was so strange because so wrestling was something that I thought I could never do, right? And I always wanted to try it because basically what I do, because you're probably thinking,
how does it work?
Right, I crawl. Like, so
how do you lock? Can you lock up with somebody?
So everybody crawls and walks. I just kept on crawling. You know what I mean? I'm like this crippled Spider-Man. That's the way I like to put it.
What's a gimmick?
It could be a gimmick, you know. Do you know he said I've got cerebral palsy, right? And Wolfgang was like that to me. You could go, they could get Triple H and be like, the cerebral assassin. The cerebral assassin. It's not bad. It's not bad.
That is. Well, do you look to folk like, I know, like Zach Gowan? Have you ever thought about speaking to him on your podcast, or has he inspired you? Because if there's folk listening, he's a wrestler. He's got one leg, isn't he?
Well, see, the thing is, it was cool seeing him at the time, and people have said that to me, right? But I just didn't, because I knew that for me it would have to be on my knees. I just didn't think it was going to be, I knew that I know that I can move a bit in that, but I just didn't think it was going to be a thing that I could even try. And then I kept saying it to people. So like Jack Jesser would come in and Wolfgang came in, and I was like, here, what get us in a ring,
get something.
See if we can try this out. And honestly, mate, like, see, taking the first few bumps, I thought I would be pure like, but I was like, let's do that again. You know, I was like, right away I was just like hooked on it, and I really started watching more of your promos and stuff, because I was like, I'm not going to be able to go and have like a Kurt Angle type wrestling match or whatever, right? But I can bump about, and if I can talk well, then I can do something.
Well, see, the thing is, For me, wrestling, I love when it's got everything. And so your wrestling would sort of be a kind of, what would you say? Like an attraction almost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's you. You know, you're when you mentioned Zach Gowen, but see, to be honest,
because I remember like so speaking of Zach Gowen, I remember my mum going, "What's that? Is that wrestling? Only got one leg?" And it interested her for her to see how's that going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Well, like, how would it work out for you?
Well, exactly. I mean,
what's this? You know, because there's got to be psychology to it, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But that to me is
he wrestled toe.
that would be box office stuff. I feel like.
Aye.
But I mean, that's the whole point of it, really, because you're talking about like Zach Gowen and that. But what I'm saying is like, see the way that you connect with you kind of connected with the people in a way that there was a sense of like, if he can do it, I can do it because he's like me, right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to do for people with disabilities. I'm like, if I can have one wrestling match. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
And don't get me wrong, I want to have more than one wrestling match, right? Once it starts, it won't stop. But the point is that the idea of me actually being able to do it opens up that door for somebody in a wheelchair. I think I could do this, maybe.
Aye.
I could maybe do this.
But then also, and as well as that, there's other. I mean, see, when I was young, I just wanted to be involved in wrestling, whether it be a wrestler, a ring announcer, a manager, a referee. So there's, as well as, you know, if your wheelchair, obviously, if it held you back, there's plenty of other stuff in there as well. A bad guy in a wheelchair, fingering about the ring, zooming about the ring, managing somebody. Do you know how that sounds?
I could do that.
Aye.
Because do you know the thing is, right, see, for yourself, right, I didn't even mean that there. For you and like every other wrestler, right, you can't really mention anything about disability because it's kind of like, folk get nervous running about it.
Whereas
I can. So there's hundreds of things that I can say that have never been said before. Do you know what I mean? I can be like that. Like, I've always imagined, like, I've always had this heat thing in my head where I come out to the crowd, right? And I would be like, right, so, you know, like, I would start off as if I was being good to them and all that. Like, it's good to see you all night. And
they're not expecting.
Yeah, like, use it all obviously, you know, feel inspired by me. And all this, and it's like, but see, sometimes, you know, looking at you tonight, seeing the faces in the crowd, I think to myself, it could be a lot worse than being in a wheelchair. Do you know what I mean?
Swerve.
Just something like that. People would just be like, boo.
Aye.
You know,
and they wouldn't be expecting it.
And they'll expect it now that I've said that. But this is the
Don't get away too much.
There's so many things in my head, and I'm going, I would love to do that. Especially the manager thing. Because to me, it's like if you can get involved in it somehow. Because my biggest thing for me is going to be being able to just get the microphone and say something that's going to connect with the crowd in some way. And you were talking about like psychology and stuff, right? I feel like that's kind of in modern day wrestling lost a wee bit in terms of everything's so fast. It's like somebody sells something here. Like, what is
mate? Tell me about it. Tell me about it. And it's no, I mean, I like the fast-paced wrestling, right? I like watching Ospreay and Ricochet, right? But I can't have it all night. I still need to have two big, massive, like folk were slagging all night, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, because they go, it's two big guys, it's going to be slow. I love all that. I love that. Two big beefcakes belting each other. I love it. I think that's incredible. That still, to me, that to me is wrestling more than what I mean, as I say, I still enjoy it, but I still love two big guys going for it. No kind of shite out of one there.
Mate, it's about like, I think it's just about having two guys that it's like, or two women that's like, there's something there where every move matters because the crowd's invested in it. There's too many matches where you watch it where all this stuff is happening, but it doesn't really mean it. Like,
no.
There's nothing behind the story. There's no, you know, the crowd's not going with it. And that's what it's kind of lost. I mean, not.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You see it every week on telly where there's like big moves. You go, right, that should be it. That's a finish. You're not going to get any better than that. And then they do something else, which then buries what they originally did in the first place because they've went on too long and have done something else. There's nothing better than selling. I love it. It's the best feeling in the world. See, I write a good match where you're taking heat and you're selling, you're trying to get the crowd on your feet and the sympathy and the crowd's building them up, and then the good guy batters you down and you're back to square one. And honestly, there's no better feeling in the world. Using the rope to move yourself about the ring, getting chopped. I honestly think there's no better feeling in the world. And then when the time comes for you to have your comeback in your day, you know, show some fire, and the crowd are right for you. That's brilliant. And you can only get that if you're down in the ground and you're in jeopardy. So when the time's right for you to hit the moves and the crowd are on your feet, there's such a buzz.
Think about how easy that would be to do with someone in a wheelchair. You'd be like, poor guy's fucked, isn't he? He's absolutely But like, there's a couple of questions for you here, right? That just from what you were saying, that you were talking about how that's what you miss about wrestling, is that feeling of, you know, just the crowds behind you, and the adrenaline rush must be crazy when that song hits, man. Because even when I was that show you quite a few months ago now, it was like you were still the most over guy there. It was like that Grado's
such song, isn't it?
It's not. See, even maybe it was a song at the start, but I think it's more to do with you and the way that you are, and people are like, because it's like when I know a guy feel like the Attitude Era comes out, and you're like, oh, these are the days. Because that's what I wanted to ask you. Right? You said about how you stepped away from being like a full-time performer and that, right? Have you found that difficult because for so long it's been your biggest passion, right? And now you've got all sorts of things going on. Was it a difficult thing to be like, this is no longer going to be my full activity?
It still is difficult, because I was used to going away Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When I wrestled in TNA, I'd maybe do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then get a flight to Orlando and do 4 or 5 days there, land back in Glasgow, and then go and do my Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or the UK. And then my life's completely changed now because I'm a dad now. And so it's like this weekend, I'm looking, I mean, being a dad's the best thing in the world. It's amazing, right? But I'm on Facebook trying to find what was it? I was going to go to tomorrow, something at Heads of Air Farm to go and see Coco Melon. It's a Wayne's thing. There's going to be something at Air tomorrow where they dress up as the characters of Coco Melon, and I'm trying to get tickets for it. And sometimes I sit and go, I do love this, but you know, a couple of years ago I'd be jumping in a motor to pick Jester up to go to Inverness, to come back down to then wrestle in Manchester on Saturday night, to go somewhere else on the Sunday completely, and also at the same time doing it with a lot of my heroes, because the time when I was wrestling in the UK, I was getting put on shows with guys that I watched growing up, heroes of mine, and I was spending time with them, becoming pals with them, pals them still to this day. So, and every week it was a constant buzz, a constant feeling of like, as you say, when that music hits, I never ever get tired of it. I really never, and it didn't matter if I was in Beef Community Centre or if I was wrestling for TNA in Wembley or ICW SECC, still such an amazing feeling. So it is hard now for me to go, I'm not going to be doing that this weekend. I'm not going to be doing that this weekend. I'm going to be spending time with my family and more worried about what I'm going to be having for dinner on the Saturday night to feed, you know, 2 Waynes and my missus. So it is difficult, but I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying it, but it's different. It's different. I'm doing the radio Monday to Friday, which keeps me going. But of course, I still do miss that. I do miss the feeling of, like, when I wrestled in TNA, man, because I was going back and forth that often, I was getting the lounge, the BA lounge, because I was getting points. I'll never forget one time I turned up to put my bags in, and I'd done a couple of loops going to the TNA in America, and the lassie says, "You've got access to the lounge now." She says, "What? What do you mean?" She says, "You've got the bar." Remember going in and sitting doing all these folk with the suits on, my tracky top, my flip-flops on. I'm sitting going, well, that bevy's for nothing. I can help myself to a packet of Chris, the deer Chris, I know, to the good mature cheddar ones, the kettle ones. Sitting there just going, wow, this is what I do for a job. Then it became like, it's funny, but because you then do it that often, and then it becomes a burden. I remember one time I went down to, a wee day out down to see I like planes, right? I went down to Haddington to see the plane museum. I was seeing Concorde and I was seeing old British Airways planes and stuff like that. And I was going, oh, I can't believe I need to go to Florida tomorrow. Can't be bothered. You know what I mean? Because I was doing it that often. Aye. But when you stop doing that, it's like, oh no, And when I turned out, obviously now, because I had to go down to London a couple of weeks ago for some BBC thing, it was like celebrating 100 years of BBC. And I remember like turning up, and obviously because I've not done my wrestling in America, all my BA points is all back to like nothing now. So I was like silver, now I'm down to like blue, which is like but practically nothing. You know, you don't get so much as like a free drink in a plane or anything like that. And I'm going, oh, what man? Back in the day, man, I'd been right up in the lounge getting here 4 hours before my flight so I could get tanked up to go down the plane. You know what I'm saying?
Aye, what happened to them?
What happened? I always remember, you know, Billy Corgan. That's funny you say that. You remember Billy Corgan for the Smashing Pumpkins?
I think so.
Right, he was like a big 90s rock star in the Smashing Pumpkins. You ever heard the song? The world is a vampire.
Yeah, I heard that song.
Smile on my face. Right, I loved him. Anyway, he was involved in TNA.
Mm-hmm.
He was.
He runs the NWA.
I runs NWA now, you're right. But he was, for a time he was running NWA and he'd take a right liking to me. Right, I don't know what it was, but out of me, kind of took me under his wing, and we would go for dinner together after shows and stuff like that. And always funny, you say what happened. Big, massive star in the 90s. Feuded with Nirvana. Kurt Cobain used to go out with, what'd you call her? Who was it used to go out with Kurt Cobain? Courtney Love. It's funny I done that there. I knew you'd say that in there, big man. Courtney Love, right? I went out for dinner one night. It was me, Billy Corgan, Abyss, Jeremy Borash, and we were in this casino where we had just wrestled. We'd wrestled in somewhere called Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and we were sitting having a couple of drinks and Billy's there, and this guy just walked up and went, Billy Corgan? The Smashing Pumpkins? And he went, yeah. What happened? What happened? And he was mortified because he's hanging about with us jabronis at this boozer. This guy's recognised him for the 90s. And you've just said it to me. What happened? What happened? I know I feel exactly the way Billy Corgan felt that day, man. I fronted. What happened, man?
Oh my God.
Catch me in the Go Radio Breakfast Show. Monday to Friday.
Oh my God.
I know. But you know what? I had fun doing it. It was the best, man. I was turning up, going to America and sharing a locker room with Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy and every one of them, they liked me because you get wrestlers, you know, me and Davey Blaze always joke about when wrestlers come out, you know, it's always the same patter that they hear. How was your flight, sir? Did you have a good, safe flight over, sir? And what do you want to do tonight, sir? What do you want to do tonight, sir? And like, I was always different. I'd always just get up to him and just, you know, what are you saying to it? Like macaroni? What? And get just something daft to kind of break the ice.
Yeah.
And the amount of relationships I ended up like building with some of these wrestlers that I grew up watching was brilliant. And I miss it.
You named some big names there, right?
I did, man.
And it,
Clang.
it made me want to ask, like...
It's just annoying that I keep drinking water.
No.
There's one thing that I hate about watching podcasts and interviews when folks start drinking water and making noises. And now I'm doing it too.
You say it right before you take a sip of water.
I know. I'm just realising what I'm doing.
But at least
I feel as if I'm more comfortable now, by the way. I feel as if I was rusty at the start, but...
No, I've got a knack for that. I make people relaxed. There's for the wheelchair jokes in it. You feel the ice has been broken, you know,
Aye.
You can start chilling out because
that did help.
I've mentioned the elephant in the room, so you can relax now. Mate.
Aye. I feel as if we could talk about anything now.
Exactly. We were speaking of talking about anything, right?
Aye.
You mentioned Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar earlier, and I couldn't help but think about you being just remember seeing you in the TNA ring with Bobby Lashley.
I know, man.
Right? And do you know what, Stephen? I was like a wee guy, right? I used to be pure watching wrestling, even to this day, a wee bit where you're like, I know now that, like, something like Kane, I'm telling people like that. The idea of like being in a ring, just being in a ring with a big giant guy, like, and you go, I know that he's not going to try and kill me, but he could.
He could, by the way.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what was going through your head there?
When I wrestled Bobby Lashley?
Aye, like it must have been. I would. What I'm trying to say is, in my head, I would have been a bit like, I don't know if I want to do this. You know what I mean?
Oh well, it was me and Robbie E for TNA. It was a handicap match, I think. No, but that was a promo, wasn't it? He gave me the spear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that.
How did I feel? I was just buzzing, man. Just telling my pals and what. That's what I used to get a kick out of. Is when I'd maybe been in America and I'd go out to the boys in the group chat. You remember Bobby Lashley? Aye. I'm wrestling him tonight. Yeah, but fuck off. There's the way you're wrestling Bobby Lashley. I go, aye.
Well, you've wrestled some people that have went on to main event WrestleMania and all that.
I know. Big Drew.
Big Drew. That must have been surreal to see that.
Drew was one of the best. He literally was one of the best wrestlers. I wrestled him in TNA as well. So I did, which was good because it was a kind of warm up to us wrestling at the SECC. But he was a man, so he was absolute man. I'm trying to think of other wrestlers that I have wrestled that I feel as if I've never mentioned before on a podcast.
Well, what's your personal favourite wrestling match that you've ever actually been a part of?
Probably the Drew one is up there, but in terms of, do you know what? Do you see this guy that's in the wrestling now, LA Knight?
Aye.
So he was Eli Drake in TNA. Did you know that? No.
I know. Aye.
So I had matches with him that I loved.
He's brilliant.
He's brilliant. And by the way, I always say to folk, he is going to be a star. I honestly, Shah Samuels, he texted me a couple of weeks ago. He goes, you says he's going to be a star. He goes, and he's the best thing on the wrestling now, and he is. But me and him had a feud, and it was brilliant. And everybody hated him backstage. He was just a guy, like he's just full of his own shite, right? Just thinks he's a man. But I really liked him, and we done a storyline where it was a feast or fired. I can't remember the exact details of it, but I ended up picking a suitcase as part of a stipulation. Oh no, I took the suitcase off during a match, and once it was revealed that I was fired. So I get sacked for TNA and storyline, but I came back as Odarg the Great. Did you know that storyline?
No, I've like seen bits of it, but
so that's the story, right?
I've tried to hate you at the time because of the whole.
Because I was a bad guy. Because I was one for TNA.
I was like,
because fucking this guy hated it. They did, which I get. It was cool at the time because ICW was this underground, like over 18s, like. Fuck the system, that type of deal. And TNA was like the most hated company on the planet.
At that time,
but could I say no? But
no,
come on.
You couldn't do it. Like, look at it, like, in hindsight, you couldn't say no. But see, at the time, man, I was like, I can't believe this guy.
I can. I mean, really, how could I turn down going to America and wrestling and, getting paid for it? The money was all right as well at the time. In fact, do you know what? When I speak about money, it wasn't even really about the money. It took me about 8 months for them to pay me. For the first time, because TNA had that whole deal where, like, wrestlers weren't getting paid, and I remember like Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, after a couple of months me wrestling in TNA, and he was like, "Hey, are you having any money issues? A lot of the boys have got money issues." I goes, "Money issues? I think I've been fucking paid for this yet." I hadn't. And he goes, "What do you mean?" I goes, I was having that much fun because I was working in the fire brigade at the time as well. Taking in any 9 calls. So I had that as like my income. And it took for him to go, "What are you talking about? You owed money." And so it took for me to go, "By the way, I don't think you have paid me yet. I've been here for January. It's now August."
What?
Seriously?
What?
Aye.
That can't be right.
Aye, it was that was, and what I know the best thing about it is because they signed me to a contract in January and they said, "Look, we'll pay you $1,300 a month." Let me rewind that back a wee bit. In fact, they had phoned me up, right? Jeremy Borash, who was the ring announcer at the time, he says, "By the way, TNA are going to phone you tomorrow. They're going to offer you a contract." I was like, "What?" "I'm going to offer a contract to wrestle in America." He says, "Aye." The next day, I got a phone call for, what do you call him? Bob Ryder, who's dead now, unfortunately. He phoned me up and he went, "Why are you smiling?" When I said he's
just the way you said it.
Why is that funny?
It was the most casual thing. It was like,
have you got that nervous thing that when somebody mentions somebody's dead?
No,
because I've got that. I just said he's dead now and you just smirked and started to a laugh. How dare you?
No, could you? You can't. We need to edit this out.
No, we're keeping this in. We are keeping this in because I need to address this. There's nothing worse, I think, when you're having a conversation with somebody and somebody mentions that somebody's passed. Do you know, I think it's the most. I'll tell you what. It's like one of the ones. I can't control it. It's like I've bumped into my pals in the past and I'll go, "How you doing? What's happening?" And I'll go, "How's your old papa?" He's dead.
Like the way it's just the way it's a way
it's a nervous thing.
It's like, could you, like, I don't know what to, I can't bring him back to life. So what did I say to this? What did I say to this news? But especially the way that you just said it, like, you didn't say like, oh, it was a great guy, and rest in peace and all that. You said it, I'm like, okay, cool, moving on. Moving on.
He's dead. He was a lovely guy, by the way.
Okay.
He was?
No, I believe it.
But I've got a nervous thing, I know. I hate when
I need to
folk do
pull
that.
this together again. You're getting me. You're
going.
all over the place here.
Man, I remember I met somebody not that long ago and it was... She was telling me
people
that
do that podcast.
she just lost her man and all that, and it's not funny at all. But just that, it gets to me. I have that nervous thing where I just feel as if I want to bust out laughing. It's horrible. Mm-hmm. It really, really is. See, when we do a wrestling podcast and all, when Wrestling Daft, see, anytime we start talking about a wrestler that's passed away, we have to edit it because I'm like, I'm going to stop doing it. And I don't know what it is. It's a horrible thing that I've got. But anyway, what was I saying? So Bob, who's sadly no longer with us, he phoned me up and went, you ready to go to America? You ready to move to America? I was like, yes, yes. He says, we'll pay you $1,300 a month. And then if you wrestle, we'll pay you $500 per match. Now at the time, TNA were only putting on like I'd say once a month. And the way it was working out, I'm going, well, how much does it cost to get a flat in America? I had a job in the fire brigade. I thought, I can't do this. I can't move to America like for this money because the cheapest at the time you were getting for somewhere to live was like $1,000 a month. So that was leaving me $300 to do me for the rest. Do you know what I mean? And I had a girlfriend at the time, so it was like, and I had the full-time job at the fire brigade, which my mum and my dad at the time were like, there's no way you're getting up the fire brigade to go and do this wrestling thing when you don't know how, because it was only maybe like a 1 year contract. But what I did do was, because I was desperate for it, I says, well, here's the deal. I goes, instead of you paying me $1,300 a month, right, what to do is, whenever you need me, take that $1,300 and put it for my flight, right, and pay my flight hour, and then the fee that I get for the match is the fee that I get for the match, the $500. Do you understand that? And he went, well, let me go away and I'll see if we'll work something out. Eventually, it couldn't have worked out any better. He says, do you know what? He says, never even mind about the taking the money out your for your flight. He says, we'll just pay you that anyway, $1,300 a month, and then any extra matches that you get, we'll pay you £500 on top of that. And we'll fly you whenever they need you. So it was gas. I could still keep my job but the problem was they never paid me for like the first 8 months because I was enjoying it that much that I didn't even bother to chase it up. But I did eventually get it sorted out.
Having the time of your life, mate.
Man.
There's a couple of things that I want to. So
having a dream, I was.
I want to. So basically, first of all, talking about America, I seen a picture of you years ago with CM Punk, right? And I was like, what? So you obviously were in a tag team with Colt Cabana, and this was at a time where they were still.
I'll tell you that. Do you know what story about me meeting CM Punk? Do you? Are you just saying this for the purposes of your podcast?
Well,
be honest.
I genuinely don't, and that's why I'm mentioning it. So the sponsor for this episode is Lab Solutions, who are a property maintenance company that's actually run by my brother. And listen, I might be better looking than him, but he's a great guy. And you should go and check out everything he does, because he's one of the hardest working people I know. And I'm always making sure that anyone that sponsors this podcast has the same intentions as me and is coming from a good place. And he definitely is one of the hardest workers I know. He will take care of everything you need, just in all those type of areas. And I just want you to make sure that go and check him out. Make sure that anything you contact Michael about, he'll be sure to help you and give you the best service that you need. And like I said, he's one of the best guys I know. They're one of the best companies to be involved in. So go check them out, Lamp Solutions, and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
So, Colt Cabana, hero, loved him. He was a man, of course. We brought him over. He was involved in the documentary, and something I don't like about vaping and having a Stone Island jacket on, so I feel as if I'm maybe a children's entertainer here. Come on.
Get the badge in, mate.
Get it, but I know you were going to say this. You know what? If he's going to say get the badge in, I was watching it, and the way this podcast is filmed, it goes, "Oh, we would get the badge in." It's absurd. Anyway, what was I saying? Right, so Colt Cabana, he had done 2 documentaries, right? It was called Wrestling Road Diaries, where the first one was him and Daniel Bryan, and him touring America and following him in a documentary, and it was amazing. Then he done the second one, it was with Luke Gallows and I can't remember the other wrestler, right? But the third one he wanted...
Anderson?
It wasn't Carol Anderson, it wasn't. This was before they were a tag team. The third one was, he wanted to call it Wrestling Road Diaries free, fun equals money, and it was just going to book comedy wrestlers. So he booked me and Kikataro, a Japanese comedy wrestler who's amazing, right? He's hilarious, right, Kikataro. And so he booked me to come over and wrestle on a Friday night in Chicago, Saturday night in St. Louis, Missouri, and Sunday night in Cleveland, Ohio. So we gets to Chicago, flies me over, and the first night, right, we're in Chicago, his hometown, and of course I'm giving it. He's best pals with Punk at the time. I'm like, we're saying Punk, man. We're going to go to CM Punk's house. He's like, he's doing UFC training in Minnesota or something like that, right? Which it was at the time because there was a UFC fight coming up. I was like, oh, what, man? I was like, why meet Punk? I thought you were going to get me to meet Punk. He was like, no. So we go to this show in Chicago, and it's a tag team match. It's me and Colt Cabana versus this other tag team. Can't remember their name. And they've got a manager, right? But the manager's in like a bodysuit with a mask on, right? And he's backstage and he does that. Remember, you started school, old Jed Slap, right? Thought we'd do that, right? He done it. This guy never even introduced himself. He's wearing a mask, he's wearing his gear. This is like 6 o'clock at night before the doors have even opened. Why is this guy in his ring gear? So he goes like that to me, and that's when I'm like, ah, you doing? You know that way I was kind of like, what the fuck's you doing? I was like, what you doing? And he's gone, and he wasn't speaking, and I'm going, who's this after? Right? So we're planning the match, and again he's doing things like putting his finger in my ear, and I'm like to Cabana, I'm like, mate, am I gonna have to punch this guy or something? Like, is he bullying me or something? Because it was getting embarrassing, you know, that way there was like other wrestlers, and he's like walking by me and going, kind of like that, and slap my head. I'm going, I'm getting bullied here. I'm a wee victim. I was like, I'm gonna need to end up hitting this guy, and he'll probably end up doing me. So, and I'm like, why is he even involved in this match? Why is he the manager to this tag team? It's so random. So we have the match, he gets involved, does something, come back again, and I'm like, why did that mask guy even need to be involved in this match? So we get ready, we get our gear sorted to get ready to go to drive to the next tune, which was St. Louis. And he jumps in the motor and he goes, oh, by the way, I need to pick something up for CM Punk's house. I was like, you're joking? He's like, I need to pick up a message for him. I need to pick something up for DPD or whatever it's called over there. FedEx. How can I forget that? And so I was like, I'm buzzing. I'm like, I'm going to CM Punk's house. And I was like, what? I think I'll be able to get like, in his room, and he's like, you see all his wrestling gear and all the kind of see if he's getting belts sliding about, kind of like that. I'm all excited. And we turn up to his house. This big, massive, like 1800s flat, Chicago flat, massive, like 4 or 5 stories. And we goes in his house, we goes up the stair. And there's a guy lying on the couch, wearing the mask and all the gear. And he takes it off, and it's CM Punk.
No way, man.
And it was CM Punk. It was him. It was
the whole time?
It was CM Punk the whole time. And that crowd in Chicago, there was only maybe about 200, 300 folk there. Bear in mind, Punk hadn't been in the WWE, hadn't done any indie appearances. He had done an indie show without anybody ever known to band me up. Right? Class, mad. Right?
That's so mad, man. That's mental.
So they get their action of me going, holy, I'm in CM Punk's house. We sit down, we have a conversation with CM Punk. I'm just getting on with him like a house on fire. We get amazing footage, right? Amazing footage, because this is Punk on an indie. He's with Grado, who was like quite hot on the indie scene at the time. Like, this is going to be tremendous. Of course, did CM Punk and Colt Cabana no fall out about a month later? Which meant that Cabana couldn't use the footage.
Oh, man.
Couldn't use the footage for the indie show. Couldn't use the footage for me being in his house. I was devastated, man, because it would have been brilliant. But I mean, it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get such a good rub off it. The rub, do you know what the rub is? Like in wrestling, the rub is like, you know, when somebody gives you.
You're giving me it by being here.
You know what I mean? So I was getting the rub off Punk, because like the next day he tweeted, "It's your cell," right?
Oh, really?
And I was like, it's just the best thing ever.
I remember seeing that.
Right? That was the day after I was in his house.
Because in my head I'm going, how the fuck did they get it?
Aye. So I was in his house. But of course, Cabana and CM Punk ended up having a mega fallout, and they couldn't use the footage, which kills me.
Are you still pals with Cabana?
Aye. As he's one of the ones that he reaches out to me more than I reach out to him. He's always like, you need to stay in contact. I think I've got this thing now where I don't contact the wrestlers. That because there's anytime there's a TNA tape and there's one of the production guys, Eric Tompkins, he's always FaceTiming me and all that to but he FaceTimes me when they're all blazing, they're all mad with it, and I'm like, I can't be fuck what's next. You know what I mean? Because he feels, he's doing boys. That was a good one about meeting Punk, but I never tell you about the time I met Hogan or not.
No.
You want to know about that?
It was close,
all right. So
as in a Hulk Hogan?
As in a Hulkster, the big man himself. So I'm booked for WrestleMania weekend at that WrestleCon carry on, right, where you sign autographs all day and there's a show at night. So you're there for the Friday, the Saturday, Sunday. It's brilliant because there's just thousands of wrestling fans, and the wrestling fans will buy anything, right? So again, I saw these like trips as a holiday, right? I was like, I'm going to WrestleMania weekend, right? You wrestle the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Mania. Most of the wrestlers who are in WWE don't go to it, which I done 3 WrestleMania weekends, and I never once went to the actual show. But one of the weekends I was hanging about with Jeff Jarrett because he was back in TNA at the time, and so we would do our signings during the day, do our matches, and at night we'd get together, go for something to eat. I remember one night we went for something to eat. It was me, Jeff Jarrett, JR was there. We had Bill Goldberg's agent who was like, he kind of cornered me and was going, you remind me of James Corden. You remind me of James Corden. I'm telling you, you're the next big thing. You remind me of James Corden. So I thought, I'm going to get signed off Bill Goldberg's agent. Anyway, that never came in that. But when the Sunday at WrestleMania, Jeff picks me up, and I can't remember where we were going. We were going for something to eat. He says, do you want to go and get sushi? I've only ever tried it for Tesco. I'll do it. So we're driving, and I'm like, I could see in my Google Maps, because I put it in to go to this sushi place. I'm like, by the way, Hulk Hogan's Beat Shop is 1.2 mile away from here. Jeff's like, you want to go and meet the big man? I'm like, right, I want to see the big man. He's like, let's go and meet the big man. So I'm like, no danger. Drives to Hulk Hogan's Beat Shop. And there's obviously it's WrestleMania weekend, so there's about 300 folk queued out, ready to get like their 2 seconds picture with Hulk Hogan, probably £200-300, whatever it is. We get out the motor, and Jimmy Hart recognises Jeff right away. He's out getting it yeehaw with a what do you call the things?
I know what you're talking about.
Megaphone.
Aye.
With a megaphone, he's like, hey Jeff, come on in. The big man's taking a shit. Come on in. So we goes in, and this is before he just starts doing his pictures and stuff like that. And then next minute, Hogan comes out, and Jeff shines me up something off. Hey, you doing, Terry? How's it going? This man here is a British Hulk Hogan. He can, honestly, gene me up, right? And the best it is, man, I've got it in the Hulk Hogan Beat Show, puts it on Facebook Live. So Hogan's like, hey, you can go, man. I'm like, and I don't know why I done it, right? But I just stood there and looked at him and took off my top. I don't know why I done it. And he's like, all right, okay. And I'm like, I started going, see, I can tell you that. And I'm doing the Hulk Hogan fucking, I'm going like that, and I'm going, he's going, very good, that's good, mm-hmm. I don't know why I'm doing it. And I'm going, see, I can do that, I can go this, whatever. And best thing ever, man, got my picture with him, put it on Twitter. I'm no joking you, within half an hour, the Sun online, the Scottish Sun online, Bulk Hogan, Grado meets his hero. Bulk Hogan, they called me. Bulk Hogan. Obviously, again, the chubby grappler met his hero today in Orlando, Florida. That kind of carry on. I was loving it, but
like that. Do you know how fake that sounds? That whole story. Like, I know that actually happened.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
It's unbelievable, right? There's.
I know, and Jeff's going like that to him. He's going, and by the way, he can work like hell as well. He can wrestle rings around folk. I'm going. And then I came in, I was like, you tell him Hulk Hogan. He was like, I was talking shit. I loved it, but I loved it. Jeff is brilliant.
He's been a bit, hasn't he?
Jeff?
He's in the AEW at the minute, isn't he?
He's in AEW, but he's another guy that's done a lot for my career because he wasn't in TNA at the time, but he came to a show and we had to off right away, and then and his wife Karen's superb and on. We were meant to wrestle each other out here I'm sure we were meant to wrestle each other at the Hydro. No, what it was, he was a special guest referee in a match between me and James Storm at the Hydro 2019. And because we were kind of like billed as, because you remember that when I came back at Shug's house party a couple of years ago and he was wearing the cow jacket.
Aye.
Please welcome my friend. He's played computer games with my kids. He's from the tap end of Stevenson, Grado. And he came out and we kind of danced about whatever. He was then the special guest referee between me and James Storm. But then he turned heel on me with a plan to then build it up to next Fear and Loathing and Grado versus Jeff Jarrett. But he ended up turning up at the Rumble and he got signed, so we couldn't do it. WWE, so I was gutted, man. WWE.
Same, man. they just chucked ICW as well, did they not?
Well, I know, but in a way, I think that's a good thing, though.
Well,
because it needs to get back to what it was. Because I reckon, although it was good financially for ICW, I think it turned a lot of the fans away. That the normal fans, like my brother, who would love company shows, probably wouldn't have reacted well, because ICW was all about the
anti-establishment. No.
Aye, and also the music was a big thing. Kenny Williams coming out to the, what do you call it song? The Back to the Future song. What do you call it? Power of Love. It's a beautiful.
Yeah,
Wolfie coming out to Hungry Like a Wolf. Like that was like the best thing about it, was the music and getting, and when it became the generic WWE music there to use, that loses a lot of its spark, loses a load of the energy for the crowd. So although it was good financially for ICW, I don't think it was good in the long term for, you know, keeping then the big shows in Glasgow. However, this is a good thing now. I think the ICW can now start afresh and go back to taking risks, like putting Madonna on when I come out and putting it on whatever streaming service.
Well, see, I want to ask you more about that, but there's something that's been kind of on my mind to this conversation.
Well,
because I was thinking about when you that whole thing when you won the belt for Drew and stuff like that, right? Because he's a fan. This is more of a fan question for you, right? Because I've always wondered this, and you've probably spoken it before, but it's different just hearing it for you here.
Right.
You obviously winning the belt like that against another Drew at the Hydro and Mick Foley's coming out and all that. It's like this. It was like the peak. It was almost, you would say, I can't think of an event for ICW that was bigger than that. That was the biggest one, right? And as a fan, I'm thinking this guy's going to go on a pure big run here, but this is going to be great. People are going to just keep following him. It's going to just keep growing and become this big. And then like, and I don't mean, this is going to sound harsh on you, right? But I read a stat that said it was the shortest ICW world title reign in the history of ICW.
It was only like 2 months, I think.
Aye, 2 months, which was, I remember when you lost it and I was like shocked as a fan. So I was kind of wondering, like, is it one of those things where, like, you know that Tyson Fury thing where he talks about he had this goal of winning the belt and being the guy, and then it's like, where do you go for there? It's like, was that a case of, I mean, how was that for you to process mentally? Because as a fan, I was kind of wondering, like, what happened there?
Well, there was too much. You want to be the world heavyweight champion, but it was never really my, like, I didn't want it for a long time anyway, because I see the likes of ICW, I'm happy being an opener and getting the crowd going, bit of comedy. There's only so much that you can do with my character in terms of being a main eventer, I believe. I felt that, I mean, I probably could have held it longer, without a doubt, but there was a wee bit of there probably was a wee bit of politics running about that, because I had just became the ICW heavyweight champion, right, in the November. The December, Fighting Spirit magazine, which was a big popular wrestling magazine at the time, they done an article on me and put me in they never put my photo in the front page, but it was like one of the wee bits, but they wrote TNA Star Grado, right? Which pissed off Dallas probably, but it pissed off a lot of the fans, but it pissed off Chris Renfrew, who I was now going into a feud with, right? And I won the title in November, and the December show was the same weekend as that weekend that I was going to be in Chicago with Cabana, right? So Chris Renfrew, I don't know what it was, then went on to the promo in the ring about how Grado's a sellout and he only cares about money and all that. Fuck, come on, what? I wasn't even get paid for half it some of the times, you know what I mean? This TNA star Grado, he shits in the fans, you should be here tonight. Obviously, I'd love to have been at that show in December to defend it, but at the same time, I was already booked for Cabana's thing, and again, it was another chance to wrestle in America. It's just horrible that it landed on the same weekend, which then kind of turned a lot of the fans against me getting into the show in January at the Barrowlands, where I dropped the title. But that's when that probably is my favourite match, is me and Chris Renfrew where I dropped the belt. I love it. It's on YouTube just now. And what I love about it as well is because I changed it up that night as well.
It was one of the best entrances ever.
I honestly like that more than any of the other entrances, is the Grado coming out to Like a Prayer for the first 30 seconds, and it cuts into, if you're having girl problems, I'm inviting your son, I got 99 problems in a bitchy. And there's a great wee bit when I'm walking in the ring, man. And there's a fan, it's doing the NAK sign in it, and I kind of go, as if to check it's dafty. And I love it so I do. And that match as well, I had got my weight down as well. I had been wrestling that often that I was fit, I was tanned, I wrestled in trunks, and I looked all right. See if you can watch it back. I should pull it off.
I've watched that match. That's my favourite match here.
Is it?
I've watched that a million times.
Seriously?
Yeah, I've watched that a million times.
It's a cracker, isn't it?
That's why I was.
Why watch it now?
That's why I was so shocked about it, because you came out and it was like that entrance to me was like, oh, this guy is going to be he's showing he's going to be the man. Do you know
what? I probably could have rode in the coattails of that entrance. And if I kept the title, you're right. I probably could have kept that up for a wee while. You're right.
It was one of those.
And I had the Foley flannel as well, which I've lost.
That also get me booking stuff, man. I know what I'm talking about. Because should
have listened to you, mate.
That was the kind of thing where there's something the wrestling loves to do, being the guy that's like writing programs and stuff like that. Because
I don't. I do it enough twice a year for my family bash wrestling shows. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Is when you were, you're saying the crowd was kind of, there was a part
50,
of the crowd 50-50, right? That to me, that entrance was like you saying, whether you like me or not, I'm the man. Do you know what I mean?
You're right. No, seriously, but
and so then, but you also, and then on top of that, you
the fact that I just spotted it the night I phone went, I'm using that tomorrow as entrance. Not to do with that at all.
Because I was like, because in my head I'm thinking this is clearly a long-term thing. Because it's like you came out, and then also on top of that, like you say, you were clearly in the best shape I'd ever seen. You know. Like, so I was like, this guy's clearly ready to go on a run. So when you lost it, I was like, what?
Then it went downhill for then on.
It was, but then it was like, so I get what you're saying about feeling like there's a limit to your character in terms of the main event, but sometimes I feel like that the wrestlers that don't plan on being the main eventers are the ones that actually end up drawing and connecting with the crowd the most.
Look at Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn in the wrestling.
Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston. All these different situations.
Everybody loves an underdog in the story.
They all heard the bit for 6 months. What happened?
I know.
Like, we need to get. I'm going to go and smash Chris Renfrew after this, right? For that.
Oh no, I don't actually hear for Chris. I don't think Enda actually hears for him anywhere, but. I do appreciate that match because that's probably my favourite match.
It was a belter. I like. Do you know when I came into this, I was like, I need to talk about other things than wrestling.
Let's talk about wrestling.
Because I was going to, because ages ago in this conversation, I was going to say to you that when my dad was in when he seen you at the telly the first time, one thing that he noticed was the big Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
The big Rangers picture.
Did he notice that right away?
When
I done the same Fight Club, because I didn't want it. Because when we done the same Fight Club, we done it right to start. I was like, I'm not getting involved in football. I was like, I'm not getting involved in football.
Well, the thing that's interesting to me is like, so like, you know that whole like, imposter syndrome thing, right?
Mm-hmm. I've got that.
See the day. This was the first time in a long time that I came in and I was like,
really?
It's a big, you're quite a big deal to me, mate. You know what I mean? So I was a wee bit like, okay.
Well, it's you're very easy to talk to, and I like getting these wee stories out.
Well,
I get right into that there.
No, I could tell, and that's
you brought it at me
because part of me is like, you just meeting somebody you want to meet, and you're like, I want this to be good, I want to enjoy it and all that. So you obviously got to meet all your heroes in wrestling, TNA man and all that, because you're actually a wrestler though. Maybe wasn't as much of that because you're doing the same field as them. But how does that compare to like meeting your heroes in football? Was you a bit more nervous meeting your heroes in football than maybe your heroes in wrestling?
No, I'd say with the wrestling, I was probably more nervous about. But I suppose what it does do is when you meet guys like that, you do realise that they're all just the same. I mean, literally, that's what it is.
Aye.
I mean, it's funny you say that, right? Because remember I told you that I'd been doing WrestleMania weekends, right? See the last one that we'd done just before. In fact, it was probably the year before we went into lockdown. I remember being at this Comic Con, the WrestleCon thing, and I'm sitting down, right? And there's the Boogeyman walking by, and there's Sting walking by to go and do photos. There's D'Lo Brown, there's Booker T, and you know that way I sat and I went, this doesn't bother me anymore. But it was quite sad in a way. I was like, the novelties, know that novelties were off, but it was like, if this had been like 4 or 5 years before that, I'd have been like, oh my God, that's such and such, oh my God. And then it kind of, when you meet that amount of folk and you realise everybody's just all just the same, then it was kind of sad that way when I wasn't feeling the excitement. I'm meeting all these wrestlers is what I did.
Mate, it's like realising Santa Claus isn't real. You're like,
aye, a wee bit.
Buzz kind of goes away a wee bit. You're like,
kinda. Aye, kinda. Like I'll see folk now that, you know, but kind of you still get a wee bit. I'm trying. Who's the last person that I've met where I thought,
well, has Alan McCoy invited you to his house yet or what?
No, it's funny that, innit? It's funny that because the story with that, of course, on Scott Squad, I done Alan McCoy's, and BBC put it up on their Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. And as soon as they put it up, I thought, oh no. I was like, is he going to have a bit of a complex? Is he maybe going to take this the wrong way that I'm kind of mocking the way he goes on? Because, I mean, he does say, make no mistake about it. I mean, you could sit and do Alan McCoy's bingo and have a care to all the stuff that he says, make no mistake about it. I tell you something, and what is it? He says, absolutely. A lot of stuff he says all the time, and I thought, he could take this the wrong way. But they put it up on Facebook, and within an hour, he DM'd me on Instagram. Came up, Alan McCoy's 9 has messaged you. All right, pal, I've been pissing myself for the last hour. And all the boys in the group chat are giving me pelters. Well done, mate. Love the show. And I was like, couldn't believe it. Of course, my brain starts going, is he going to start asking me? Think he might be like, get a big man in for his dinner. Or he's sitting in the boozer going, get Grado down, man. Get my phone. That's what, you know what I mean? That's where my mind goes.
Aye.
But then I have been in contact with him because he was going to do our podcast, Pint 2 Shots, but people, the amount of folk that you've maybe heard before that I'm really bad to try and get a holiday.
Maybe, mate.
Right. I mean, as I've said, if I look at my texts now, where am I at now? 278 unread iMessages and 287 unread WhatsApps. Oh no, somebody's asked me to phone them. He's worse. Alan McCoy is worse, and I always knew that anyway. He's bad to try and get a holiday, but we're trying to get him to come on the podcast. So I've been playing it kind of cool. I don't want to be going taking the piss. But I tell you one thing that did happen to me when I done the charity game at Ibrox, which I thought was cool, because I have met Ali before, but we were in the bit just as you get into Ibrox or the marble staircase, isn't that? And somebody tapped my shoulder, and I turned around and it was Alan McCoy. He says, excuse me, pal, how you doing? Any chance I can get a picture with 2 of my boys? I was like, of course. And I was like, right, no bother. And Ali's taking a picture. It just blew my mind. Ken Alan McCoy is asking me to get a picture with his boys.
Aye.
Unreal.
That must have been.
Oh, it was amazing.
We haven't. Do you know what's interesting? See, when I told my family I was having you on, right? In my head, I'm going, it's like, wrestling legend, ICW world champion, all this, right? And like, my nephew is like, you see the guy who 2 doors down?
Aye.
And I'm going, oh, I'm getting old. Like,
I know, but you're right. There's some folk that don't know me as the wrestler at all. If I tell them I'm a wrestler, they go, what? You're a wrestler as well? Because there's folk that have obviously just saw me for doing Scott Squad or 2 doors down. So I can understand why. But that's quite sad, isn't it?
It's like because right away I'm like, that's not what he is.
Aye, I know what you mean. He's a wrestler. He's a wrestler.
How does like, you're talking about the buzz that wrestling gives you, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that, like, do you get anything similar to acting?
That's a good question.
I'm good at this, man.
No, that's a good question. But you're come on to a game. I would say you stick in. I would say that the buzz that you get for acting, I suppose there is still a bit of a buzz. I say the buzz that you get for acting is when the likes of when you're on two doors down, right? I've got one kind of one-liners, right? I don't really need to remember a lot. It's not as if I'm sitting there with I've got heavy loads of dialogue, the likes of like Johnny or Elaine C. Smith have. I suppose the buzz that you get is when you say your line and you can hear the director and the writers at the monitor and you can hear them laughing. And you know that what they've wrote and you've managed to kind of make them laugh at what they've said. So there's buzzes. That's probably where the buzz comes from on that kind of.
Is there any sort of, when it comes to acting, have you had like, so obviously I feel like most of the roles you've done and most of the things you've done have been based around just being yourself.
Me? I know.
You're like the Rock and all always. But like, is there any sort of rules where you go, I'd quite like to try doing something different?
It's funny, I get tagged. You and Cameron texted me last night. There's a lot of stuff I don't end up promoting, but I done an episode in Endeavour a couple of years ago.
Oh really?
Aye, where I play. You know what Endeavour is on ITV?
Definitely. I think I've seen.
It's the prequel to Inspector Moss. I played, but funnily enough, I played a wrestler. I played a gay wrestler accused of killing a takeaway driver. Right, and it was in the 60s, right? It was set in the 60s, and so it was, and so I was only maybe in about 3 or 4 scenes, but that was serious acting, and it was putting on a Manchester accent. So I've done that, and then I've done a wee thing for that I've never really spoke about either. I've done a series on Disney Plus called, what's it called, man? Wedding Season, where I played a policeman.
Well, you've played a policeman.
I know, and it's funny because I went to get the costume fitting for it, right? And I was like, oh, that's more or less what, because it was like done in England, because it was like that's the way it was. It was shot in between America and the UK, but I had to go down to I think Manchester for the costume fitting, and the woman gave me the stuff that I had to wear, and I was like, I kind of copper up the road anyway in Scotland, so kind of shit that I usually wear. And she went, well, don't be telling them that you're ready to play a copper. I goes, they don't know that. Because they could have went, might have decided to get somebody else because they know that, because they didn't know that I was known for playing a copper on the telly. But so I've done wee bits of kind of serious acting here and there, but I would like to demare it. I really, really would.
Did you enjoy it then?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
I'd be interested to see you, see how you would do in like a pure sinister role.
I'm going to be in Hingley. What's it called? Is it? Oh no, I'm going to get this right because there's a story to this. I know, right? You know the way they know in Scotland, there's all these one-named dramas: crime, fight, screw, rig. Okay, I mean, right? So I keep getting mixed up. I'm sure I was in the Irvin Welsh one, which is called. I'm sure it's called Crime, right? It's called Crime, right? And I play. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it. It's coming out. It's only a one scene, but it's something that I've never done before. I've got tattoos and all that, and a drug den stuff, right? It's class. But it's funny because so you have it, right? So see that thing I was telling you about, that BBC 100 years thing that I went down to, right? I met a guy called Neil Forsyth there, right? Grado, how you doing? I'm Neil Forsyth. I was like, oh, he's a writer. He's wrote stuff big in Scotland. He says, I write, is it, oh Christ, it's Guilt, right? Get the number, right? He says, I write Guilt, right? And see, because I keep getting mixed up with all these names, I was like, I went, Guilt? I went, am I in that? He went, no, you're fucking knowing that. But, oh, it's crime I'm in. But I was mortified because I genuinely forgot the thing that I had a wee bit part in, because they're all called Screw, Crime, Guilt, Fear, I mean. So he's standing there, and I'm like, it looked as if he told me that he wrote Screw, and I went, it's no Screw, what's it called? Guilt! See what I mean? It looked as if I went, Guilt, am I in that? What to see? But it wasn't like that at all. It was just because I generally got mixed up. So I was a bit of a redneck.
You're full of the stories, man. You're full of the stories.
I know. Let's get going.
So, okay.
That was a good night. I know, I've been at that BBC 100 years, man. Partying with Mary Berry. Lenny Henry was there. There was Zoe Ball, Graham Norton. It's class. And of course, there was like nobody going about asking for selfies with each other. Well, I'm not giving two. I'm just like, right, Alan, come here. 40. I was in my element. I got my pictures with Dermot O'Leary, Graham Norton, who else? Big Greg Davies for the in-betweeners. He was there. Great night.
Well, you're meeting a bigger star today, so there you go.
There you go, my man.
Try to give myself the rub.
I just watched that. So what's we are rubbing? Anyway.
It's, well, I've got two good hands and not so much for the legs, you know. See, you said too many funny things that I had to say something back. But, okay, so I'll give you I don't know, I have no idea how long we've went, and it's one of the times of the podcast where I'm like, I don't want it to end. There's a couple of quick fire things for you, right?
Quick fire?
Well, I'm quite like you with the quick fire. When I say quick fire, I mean overdrawn questions that hopefully you have a quick answer for.
I'm not, right, we'll see.
Okay, so this will be like the last sort of, if you like, serious question, right?
Right, oh no, what?
When we talk about wrestling, we talked about wrestling.
Me wrestling shit.
This is the last thing I'll say, is everyone talks about that. You know, you always see these things in wrestling where there's like that big sort of, for lack of a better way of putting it, retirement match or a retirement scenario.
Aye.
Have you got something, you know, what does the future look like for you in wrestling?
I don't know. I really don't know. I love doing my Family Bash wrestling shows at the Pavilion. I really love that because...
Book me, mate. Get it booked. It's an idea.
I'll try and think of something. If you can think of a storyline, send it to me.
Yeah,
right?
I'll send you about 10 of them.
How I think about it.
Aye, cool.
We'll see if we can work something out.
Right.
And why I do love them is because there's such a variety that we have on it. Because it's like pantomime in a wrestling ring. No to the fact where it's like taking the piss out of wrestling, because that's what I hate. Don't get me wrong, as much as I love comedy and stuff like that, I hate when it takes the piss out of it. Right? See, there's some stuff that I've seen on the internet and I go, right, come on, right, that's too far. But in terms of a retirement match, I don't know. I've never really thought about it. But if it had to be with MD, it would be probably with Cabana, Drew, Shah, or Jester.
Interesting. Maybe get like a wee. I don't know.
Hopefully, I don't need. I want to be like Big Daddy, man. Well, he's still carting his big old arse into the ring, man. At 50 odd. You know what I mean? He'd never done much. You know what I mean? He just belly bopped.
Well, to be real with you, man, I hope it's no time soon because I want to wrestle you, no?
Yeah, what's that?
I'd love to wrestle you, man.
Why do you know?
I'll put you through this table.
I'll take my clothes off and do it in the street.
I'm gonna start cutting a promo on you today, man. Like, he turned his back on us, man. Let's get to the wait, you win the TNA.
That's been done, that storyline.
No, but there's that is actually like when I think about being a wrestler, I'm like, Grado's the guy I want to wrestle. Like in my head, I'm going that because it's like, like you say, when you're limited, so I'm like limited in my movement, right? I can bump about in that, but I need somebody that the crowd's going to be into. So like, I've always looked at it like my whole thing is sort of, for lack of a better way of putting it, the wheelchair version of you. Try to connect with the people. Try to like draw the people in. You know what I mean?
No, I can understand that. So, I think we'd be better off as a tag team, mind you.
Mate, I'd be a bit. I mean, with all due respect to Baby Davey, I think I could take his place pretty easily.
Aye.
Well, mainly because think about it, right?
And that's been done anyway.
Exactly, and like we says, think about how easy it would be to get heat or cheered as a guy in a wheelchair. I've always thought this, mate. So
there's something there.
I'm sitting pitching this to you because I'm like, let's do it, mate. If we actually end up tag teaming one day, like I'm going to clip this part of this conversation.
Have you got a tag team name for us?
That's
no. Don't put me in the spot. 'Cause I'm not thinking of something.
I wish. What
did she say?
I wish I thought about it, mate.
What did you say? Wheels in the leg, man.
Wheels in the leg, man.
So I've just a bit cold because I've got legs. You've got legs or not?
I don't know what. You could just call it. Well, we said that thing about there's something there. Like, I'm trying to think. I've always thought you could say because there has to be something about. There has to be something. I wish I thought about this beforehand. Right?
Sorry, I hate being put on the spot like that. I know.
Because it's like
I hate things like that.
Because like I'm going to go home tonight and be like,
and you think about it at 10 o'clock at night.
Fuck off, man! I wish I said that on the podcast.
Well, just DM me and tell me.
Listen, mate, we'll come up with something. The podcast audience will come up with something.
Right, okay.
Because there's got to be a name for. We talked about it earlier, like with my legs, with my arms in your legs, we make a great tag team.
There you go.
So there must be something there. There must be some sort of name there. Because it's like, you've got Grado Mania and you could try and like Grado Hot Wheels Bash or something like that.
So you mean that's absolutely brutal? That's the fucking worst.
Fair dues. Fair dues, mate.
Next question, come on.
Okay. So moving on for that, have you ever heard of power chair football?
Have I ever what?
Power chair football, mate.
No, I've no. I think I have. Did they do that? Did they do that?
It's not wheelchair basketball. It's not.
Right.
Everyone thinks that.
No, but is there a place in Glasgow that does it?
I will. There's a. Aye.
No, across for Highbrooks, no.
No. Well, see, what it is right? Because I'm gonna put you on the spot there. See,
power chair football.
Aye, so it's basically wheelchair football, right? But I say power chair because it's like on one of these chairs. For those that can't see, it's not like wheeling with the arms. It's like the motorised wheelchairs, right? Mm-hmm. But they're specifically designed sport chairs for the game.
Right.
They go like 10k and it's 4 a side, and there's everybody thinks it's like I don't know, what you would call it, dodgems or something like that, right? But it's not like that. Like we pass the ball a bit.
There's a skill to it. There's an act to it.
We were in a tournament in August to qualify for the Euros for Scotland, and we done it. And I scored a hat trick against Germany.
I said, can you see that on YouTube?
I'll send you.
You've scored a hat trick against Germany?
I scored a hat trick against Germany. It was 1 each when I scored a hat trick, and it was brilliant.
I want to see that on video.
Well, what I'll try and do is stick it up for the video on YouTube when we're talking about it, so you can.
Aye, I'd like to see that.
But it's this sport that I've been part of the platform of. This is me pushing the idea of getting mainstream teams involved, and then like things like getting mainstream football teams involved in power chair football and being a wrestler are things that I'm trying to make show people which I can do that. Do you know what I mean? So I was thinking about it, and I was like, you, Stephen and Toll, right, against me and a couple of Scottish internationals.
Well, I'm well up for that.
We'll take these on.
So, and I take it there'll be cheers for us. What?
No, because like
we don't need to buy one. I don't know. My fella's got a wheelchair.
We'll get the chairs, like, because
I can't use that.
The specific. The thing is that like, see if you went in a regular chair against one of our sport chairs, which is right past you. You know what I mean? It's like it's quite. There's a lot of see when you watch it at the higher level, you can tell what it is. It's like the same as watching a fives, only it's 4-a-side and it's wheelchairs. But we have certain rules so you can't go all in at the same place and all that.
So what you want to do something like us, and then we'll play your team and see what happens with it. Because can I shine a light on it? Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, that would be clear, because I created my own team. Have you heard of FC United? It's a suicide prevention organisation.
I have heard of them. Aye. I'm sure I think they might have sent me a shirt before, maybe.
Probably.
Is it grey? Grey and blacky?
Yeah. There's got a couple of them, but one of them is that. Aye.
But it could have fit me. It was a double XL and it was still a bib tube on me.
They should have given you it before the Chris Rowntree match. It would have been a good.
It would have been brand new.
It would have been a good time for it. But no, that chat, like, so it's not. I keep saying it's a charity, but it's not a charity. That organisation, right? I teamed up with them to create my own power chair football team, and we are now called FC United Prevention Against Suicide Power Chair Football.
Brilliant.
Because that mental health is something that I try and promote in the podcast, just because I've been through bad times and such. And, you know, not to put a damper on.
No, I've been the same. Come on, we've all been. Everybody's. It's always better. You don't need me to tell you, but it does. It's worth always saying that. Because like the day, I woke up this morning not feeling great. I didn't, and I went to radio, and I've came here the day, and then I'm speaking to you, and just talking away. It does help. Yeah,
talking always helps. It's actually on the back of on our shirts. It says talk, and that's like something where it's like, the worst time that I've been through in my life is when I've got quiet. You know what I mean?
That's that. If you're kept going, and you keep doing stuff and keep get yourself stimulated, that's when it can kind of thing with it.
That's why
I'm not good at. That's one thing I'm no good at, is talking about mental health in terms of like in a proper way. Do you know what I mean by that? But, like, I don't mind talking about mental health, but see, making it sound worth its salt. Fucking good at it, I know.
Like a deep, serious thing.
Aye.
See how, but that's interesting to me, right?
I can't, but
the way that you said that, you were like talking, like to talk about it properly, right? I think that's one of the biggest problems with mental health is there seems to be this way that people think they need to talk about it.
But see, the thing is, I know is this controversial or not, right? But see, it's good to talk, but there's more to it than talking.
Aye,
I always feel as if there's more to it as well. I don't know. Even like I'm just saying it's sometimes there's folk that need more than. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Well, I think to try and put it in a way that you're looking for that's not controversial. I think the way you're trying to say this is that talking about it's good, but then there needs to be things in place where actual support, actionable things are there for people to get support for things.
I would talk about it, but then what we're going to do about it.
And that is a problem because it's like it's became this sort of niche thing where you can talk about it and be like, let's talk about mental health, and that's it.
It's good to talk, and then there's nothing else comes it.
You're right.
Next? No, that's what I mean. Yeah. That's exactly what I mean. Like, what can we do? Like, because
I'm gonna carry you all the way through this, man. It's brutal.
No, because there's so much stuff in the west of Scotland that I think it's affecting young folk. I think it's the amount of I think the drug use is affecting young folk. I think gambling. I think social media plays a big part of it when they see folk living their best life on social media and they're getting this and they're going this holiday and they're having this sort of relationship. It's more than just talking. I think for young folk, there's got to be more stuff out there that people can. I don't know. See, you carry on for there, but do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah,
I feel as if I want this bit cut out.
No, it's like I listen. I get exactly what you mean. It's a hard thing to know what the right thing is to say about it. Mm-hmm. But the point is that there's only see if all you're saying is talk about it, but the suicide rate's still going up.
Aye,
we're not. Something's clearly not working.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying is that all you're kind of doing is it's almost saying talking about it as like a political social tool to say I'm a good guy, let's talk about mental health, rather than saying what we're actually going to do about it. It's the same thing that I say in a different sense about disability. Like people will say, you're so inspiring and so motivating to be around all that, and you're like, can we build more ramps please though? That would be great. You know what I mean? It's great that you find them inspiring, but I can't get to the fucking shop.
You're right.
Do you know what I mean?
What we're going to do about it, there needs to be a plan of action.
Exactly. There needs to be something in place where people are actually going to take steps to make it mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of words that are just said to come across as well-intentioned and as a good person, but then how do you actually put that into something that actually means something?
Well, you're doing... Well, that's that. No, you're partly doing by speaking to folk on this podcast.
That is the whole point of the podcast, mate. Is just to
Have you ever had anybody... You ever, James English and that gets on, like, criminals and stuff like that? Did you ever get that?
I've never had a criminal on it, but I think, like there's people that do podcasts.
You get doctors on and all that?
Well, I mean, I recently got called a doctor by a Vegas guy, but I'm not going to claim to be one.
Right.
I'm a very deep, emotionally in tune person, so I guess I would consider myself emotionally intelligent in that sense. But in terms of a doctor, I think the closest thing I got to that. Well, I'm going to have. Do you know who that neuroscientist is? He's brilliant.
Is that the geezer that's always? He's always climbing mountains and all that. And I follow him on Instagram. He's good.
So hopefully
he gets me going. Him.
Aye. But no. See, the thing is, for me, it's not about. It hasn't really been about like when you talk about like doing English, getting people on and that. It's about generating views through controversy. Mine is more about actual try to get a point across of being like, how can we? Because for me, it was a case that I've been in wheelchair my whole life, right? And I've never really had anything to look up to or aspire to be, and there was a deep sense of hopelessness there.
Oh, I bet you there was.
And it's one of those things where I grew up and I was like, I can become the guy that I wanted to have to look up to for the next person.
Aye.
So that if somebody with disability or somebody even just going through a bad time in their life that's not disabled can look at me and watch us and get some hope out of it.
Well, you know what? Well,
that's the point.
I know I'm probably repeating myself for what I've said for the start, but you will be making a difference to folk that maybe don't have the confidence, that might think, podcast, stuff like that, I can't do that, I'm in a wheelchair, or I've got whatever disability that's holding them back. So you're making good progress with it. Yeah. And you've managed to get the champ on.
I'm trying my best, mate. Do you know, there's been some ups and downs with this stuff and all that, but it's been a long sort of process. And at the start of this year, there's been times where the podcast has done really well, and then I've dipped away from it and stuff like that. And then at the start of this year, you're talking about the videos that I've been posting on Instagram and stuff like that. I said to myself, like, let's just give this one more go. Like, be as consistent as you can be. Put in as much work as you can every day to be the best person you can be, and then try and see if you can make this platform into something, because I've lost a lot of people, a lot of pals that are good disabilities that were life-limiting conditions that have passed away, and there's a big part of me that wants to continue their memory in some way.
I'm doing that hang now.
Yeah. I know.
You got us back here because you're starting about putting the passing away.
No way, mate. I didn't even think about that, man. Talking about going full circle now, the point is, right?
Oh my God.
That was so, I didn't even think about that earlier on from before.
It's terrible, it's absurd.
We came full circle there, right? But the point is that I'm just trying to create something that wasn't there when I was a wee guy, you know?
Do you see how the videos that you're posting every day as well, is that making you work out more because you need to put the video up as well? Because I feel as if I want to do that.
Aye.
Like pop a story out or something like go, here's my progress. And so if I stopped doing it, people would start going, well, how you know, what's the video there? Is that you gave it up? Is that what you're doing?
Well,
that's great.
Because I have been, like, I've worked it before and been consistent, but this was more just about, like, I want to, if I'm, like you say, if you put it out there and you stop doing it, how come you stopped at day 40 and you keep going? And it's like, I'm looking at it going, each day that you do it, the more time that goes past, people are going, is it day 65? What the fuck? How long have you been doing this for? So see if you do that, it is a motivating factor. But for me, it's just been like, there's been years I've been on and off and different things happening, but I'm just going, I want to just see what happens if I just go fully in on this and commit myself. And like, there's been times where I've almost given up on it, and you're thinking, well, like, not just the podcast, but just life in general, to be honest with you. And it's like, but I had this moment where I realised I was like, instead of giving up on it, you could be somebody that pushes through and shows other people that it can be done, that you can get past shit, and you can get past, you know, you can do something with your life that makes a difference to people and
to other people.
And that's what it is, mate. So like, it's not, you know, it's about actually having a meaning behind it for me, the podcast wise, and doing something that I feel like hasn't really been done before. And then from that, I'll be having wrestling matches with you, and do you know?
So we can cover,
so some mad things, you know?
Or get this football thing that you're talking about.
I'd be up for it, man. I mentioned it to I had Tool on donkeys ago, but he's a good guy, and I think that it would basically, the more times that we can do, even like doing like a video of like you playing it with us would bring so many more eyes to it. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm try to professionalise this. You know, because I want it to be here for when I'm not here. And that requires more eyes on it and more people watching it. And people talk about passion in football, man. There's no more passion in football than passion in football.
You seem a very determined man.
You know,
I love that. You've got goals.
Wee bit of determination.
It's good to be hungry like that.
Aye.
It is, man.
How hungry are you now?
Fucking starving. Legit, that was the first thing I say when I come in here, wasn't it? Because I usually come after here at 10 o'clock and the first thing I do is go straight for a scoff. What time is it now? Round about here. Is there somewhere to get some tea?
So there's a
sorry.
No, there's like loads of people. Like I think there's like a Nando's pretty close to here.
Is there? Is there a Nando's close to here? No, there isn't.
Well, like we
Oh, I'm not going there.
Well,
but be serious what you're talking about, right? You can tell that you're a determined guy, and that's and even just sitting with you is inspiring me to do more.
I want to see those workout videos getting posted, innit? I want to see them.
Give me a cut a month. Give me a cut a month.
No, like I'll be watching. I'll be keeping track of it. Like, where's this workout video? Now people know now, mate.
It's the starting, mate. It's once you get. It's just try to get started, isn't it?
And do you know?
It's the hardest thing, isn't it?
Do you know what's mental about it now? It's like see when you get through that, you go. As long as I keep going, it will never be as hard as it was at the start. If you can get past the first 2 weeks.
So it's like the time I gave up chocolate. It's hard for the first couple of days, but see by day 7, day 8, day 9, you forget about it.
Exactly, mate. It's just about building good habits. Listen, this is one of these podcasts where I like legit would talk to you all day. I don't know. Right? But you know, you always want to leave the people wanting more. You know?
Right.
I want the people to want you to come back so I can do this again.
Right, let's do it.
But you know, this I know you probably get asked to go on a million different podcasts, right? And asked to do a million different things for different people, and I've already given you like 2 or 3 other things that we should do.
I know, I can. I'm
right?
coming here with a list now.
And
I have to stay at the gym. I have to go and play cheer football, anything else. That's what it's all about, but come on.
Aye, well, it's all about ability, isn't it?
It's all about ability.
Get a wee plug in there.
Aye.
But the point I was just going to make there is that, like, I just want you to know that it does mean something for me to have you in here, and it's a big deal to me. So
Well, I appreciate
you coming in.
No, it's nice to see that, you know, I've had a positive effect on folk. I can never ever forget that. I really can't, because sometimes you forget, and folk have been inspired by my story. So it's always good to see somebody that's been inspired by me to then go on to do something that they're loving doing, and they want to go somewhere with, like, so you on this podcast. So it means a lot that somebody like you has been a fan of me and has respected me. And I hope this podcast has been all right, has it?
Oh, it's been amazing.
Has it?
I've actually had such a buzz.
Seriously?
Honestly, mate.
Have you enjoyed it?
It's because it's one of those things where even just 7 8 weeks ago, I could never have imagined sitting here having such a good time with you. So
well, can I tell you something now? It's been very easy. See, at the start, I must admit, I felt a wee bit rusty with all talking. But once I get in the swing of things, you made me feel comfortable enough to start telling all my stories and stuff like that, and I love that.
Oh, I appreciate the upgrade, though, mate.
There you go, mate.
You're the champion of the people, bro, and you're welcome back anytime.
I will do it again. We done tomorrow. We done half an hour.
Having food with your partner.